Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. Today's What I Eat in a Day review is sponsored by Built Bar, and we will be looking at another Harpers Bazaar Food Diaries video from American supermodel Ashley Graham. But before I get into it, I want to chat about my sponsor, Built Bar. Now, as you know, I don't normally eat a lot of protein bars because, if I'm being honest, I think most of them kind of taste like crap. But as a busy breastfeeding mama, I am all about quick, easy, handheld snacks. So I was really pleasantly surprised when I tried one of these. They taste legit like a marshmallow coated in chocolate. So good. I would eat them even if they didn't have any protein in them. So today's flavor is going to be Apple Almond Crisp. This one has 18 grams of protein. Let's take a little tasty. So good. And because this is a lower sugar bar, I would pair this with a piece of fruit or toast as a post-workout snack for muscle repair. But these have been awesome as like breastfeeding fuel in the middle of the night. My hubby definitely approves because most of my snacks like cereal and nuts are super crunchy and just like obnoxious in the middle of the night. Anyway, all the flavors I've tried so far are super yummy, and I'm so excited to make my way through the rest of this box with you guys. So if you want to try them out, I will leave a link below for 20% off of your order. Also, you can pause the screen or look at the description to check out my disclaimer, including a trigger warning for those with current or previous experiences with disordered eating. A reminder that this format follows a celebrity's description of what they eat and tells me very little about its accuracy, portions, brands, cooking preparation, etc., not to mention their overall relationship with food. So take this more as general education to the masses, not as specific recommendations to Ashley. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring that little bell so that you never miss out on a future episode. All right, let's see what she has to say.
Around 6 o'clock, I hear, wah, wah, and I go and I get Isaac, and then we come back to bed and we have snuggles and I feed him in bed.
We basically have the same morning routine. Baby alarm clocks, not always super reliable on, what time they're gonna go off, but I promise you, you'll never sleep through it. Well, unless you're my husband. Let's see what else she has to say.
I am a high caffeine coffee drinker. 3 to 4 cups a day. Do not judge me. Do not come for me in the comments. It is my life. I drink about a gallon of water a day to, counteract all the caffeine.
So girl, I will not judge you on that. I get that between work and motherhood, life is exhausting. So you drink that coffee if it brings you life and joy. And as I always say, I don't critique people on their coffee order. But before you comment, warriors, get anxious over here about breastfeeding and caffeinating, let me break this down with science. So when adults consume caffeine, the average half-life, or the time it takes for the caffeine level to decrease to half its starting dose, is about 5 hours. In newborns, it's almost 4 days. Now, if that sounds super scary, it's important to remind yourself that you're not, hopefully, putting a latte in a bottle and feeding that to a baby. The mom is drinking it, it's then being metabolized, and according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, less than 1% of that caffeine gets into the milk. Now, while the standard 200 to 300 milligrams recommendation that we're given during pregnancy doesn't typically seem to cause any issues, research does show that caffeine consumption exceeding 300 milligrams per day can increase the likelihood of an infant showing symptoms of caffeine stimulation like fussiness, irritability, or undersleeping. Every baby and adult's caffeine tolerance is of course unique and tends to increase as they get a little bit older. So if Ashley's little one isn't affected by her 3 to 4 cups of coffee, which is probably between 300 and 400 milligrams of caffeine per day, then great. I am not here to shame. Every mama has to know their baby's best. But if you're breastfeeding and still want to enjoy your morning joe, know that the research suggests that when caffeine consumption is kept within the recommended guidelines, the amount that can be passed onto the infant through breast milk is negligible and generally regarded as safe. As for the water, I'm glad that she's focusing on hydrating since fluid needs are significantly higher for breastfeeding moms. It's not that the water helps to flush out the caffeine like she alluded to, but since coffee is a diuretic, it may help replenish any of those extra fluids that are lost. Let's see what she's gonna be eating.
I am a big breakfast eater. Also I'm breastfeeding and we have to take in so many calories when we're breastfeeding, so I feel like a bottomless pit at all times. Usually I make scrambled eggs, and that's also what Isaac eats as well. I spray a little bit of coconut oil on it, and I take 2 eggs, put some oat milk in, season it with a little Himalayan sea salt.
I can attest to the bottomless pit feeling. There are days I could legit eat all day and still not feel full.
You just ate.
But those eggs do sound really good right now for a quick hit of satiating protein and fat. I do just want to flag again that, as I've said before, that pink fancy Himalayan sea salt, while delicious and slightly higher in trace minerals like calcium, iron, potassium, and magnesium, it's not that much healthier than regular table salt. You would have to consume a lot of it to get any substantial quantities of those nutrients. So I just say choose a salt that you can afford and that you like, and focus on getting your minerals from more plentiful sources like fruits and vegetables.
Recently I cut gluten out. Game changer. If you are tired and your joints hurt, just cut out gluten for a couple of days. I saw the difference immediately.
Okay, so let's clear this one up here, folks. 1, it's absolutely true that there's a link between celiac, which is an autoimmune response to gluten, and other autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis and diabetes. In fact, according to the Celiac Disease Foundation, there's between a 1.5 and 6.5% chance of developing arthritis if you have celiac. As for non-celiac wheat sensitivity, while less is known about the relationship, a lot of people do complain about symptoms like joint pain and fatigue. Now, one study found that 29% of patients with non-celiac wheat sensitivity developed an autoimmune condition compared to 21% of those with celiac and 4% of those with IBS. And it is possible that this might not just be related to the gluten, but also to the FODMAPs or other components of wheat. So it's important to work with a dietitian to get to the root cause of your digestive issues or your other symptoms like feeling fatigued or having joint issues.
I like to put a little bit of dairy-free butter on my toast. I kind of go a little bit ham because in my head I'm like, it's not real butter, it's dairy-free butter. And then I put my eggs on top and I eat it like an open-faced sandwich.
Ah, yes. The classic dairy-free health halo. It's kind of like how some packages of licorice have fat-free on the label, which I assume is supposed to make people think that it's healthier. But at least the girl acknowledges that this is kind of faulty logic. It's ultimately still fat and arguably less healthy than actual butter. The gluten-free bread, on the other hand, is generally less nutritious than its gluten-filled counterpart, since whole grains generally have more fiber, less sugar, and more healthy fats. That said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a little bread and butter or non-dairy butter with your eggs. In fact, I love that this meal supplies some solid protein, carbs, and fats, and is super easy to put together and eat while you got a baby on the boob. All I would love to see is maybe a little fruit or veg.
I'll probably be making my second cup of coffee. And depending on if I want to have a juice, I love the brand Natalie's. It's like this perfect, little bit of tartness. That's my morning breakfast. And then I can get my day started.
Love me some grapefruit juice and coffee, though obviously not together because there is no food combination more triggering than that. But I also don't count juice as an ideal source of fruit in my books. Yes, it helps supply a healthy dose of vitamin C, which is great, especially this time of year. But you would be missing out on a lot of the fiber in whole fruit or veg. So if you're like me and you feel like segmenting a grapefruit is painfully unrealistic, because it is, a few handheld clementines or an apple or a banana would also do the trick.
My favorite bone broth is from this place in New York called Brodo. It is so yummy. Maybe have someone order me a gluten-free cookie. Probably Have another coffee. Peanut M&Ms, specifically peanut M&Ms, and avocado with sea salt and a little bit of olive oil. I love anything uber wet, cold, and crunchy.
Definitely an eclectic collection of snacks right here. Bone broth we've covered extensively in my Kylie Jenner review, but I will say that while an acquired taste, it is a good low-calorie source of protein with about 10 grams of protein per cup. The gluten-free cookies, again, still cookies, despite what a lot of marketing campaigns will try to tell you. But since she's also a fan of the peanut M&Ms, which are obviously the best M&Ms, I don't really get the sense that she's obsessed with clean snacks. It sounds like gluten may be a legitimate trigger for some unpleasant symptoms for her, so she's finding some ways to satisfy her food cravings that don't aggravate those symptoms. As for the avocado and cucumber, can I just say, I love how she described these snacks. You can tell that these are just straight up pleasure for Ashley. They're not pulled from a list of must-eat diet foods. Avocado with sea salt and olive oil sounds incredibly luxurious and delicious, and particularly delicious sounding when paired with that crunchy, cold cucumber. When you can think about naturally nourishing foods like this, rather than foods that you need to eat because they are healthy or clean, you are so much more likely to want to eat them.
When I was pregnant, I thought that I was gonna be craving like mac and cheese, fried chicken, but I just needed like a big ol' sweet green salad, sometimes two for lunch when I was pregnant. I usually like to have a romaine lettuce, Parmesan chips with an avocado, chicken, carrots, cucumber, a honey mustard, or like a spicy chipotle dressing.
So it's really funny because when I was pregnant with baby E, all I wanted to do was eat salad, like drenched in a really acidic vinaigrette. Probably because I was dehydrated and I also couldn't stomach a lot of like protein or cooked foods with strong smells. So salad and fruit, especially really acidic ones, was really all that I wanted. So girl, I get you. I feel like the term food cravings has been hijacked by diet culture to mean junk food, but if you're listening to your body, it doesn't have to be. It could be really naturally nourishing food. As for the meal itself, it sounds amazing and totally my kind of salad order. We've got fat in the avocado, cheese and dressing, protein in the chicken, and lots of fiber-rich veg. We could totally add in like a gluten-free carb here, like quinoa or rice. But if she felt satisfied from like the peanut M&Ms or the cookie snacks, then I'd say it all balances itself out. I do just want to flag that I noticed Ashley mentions that she was eating for 2 while pregnant and now only for 1. And I actually want to semi-debunk this. So first of all, caloric needs don't actually double in pregnancy, though I get that it can feel like they must. But even in the 3rd trimester, you're only looking at an extra 350 to 500 calories. That's literally like a coffee shop muffin. Meanwhile, depending on your breast milk supply, most nursing or pumping moms are expending an extra 500 calories or more per day. So in reality, your needs postpartum for milk production and recovery are potentially much greater than they were when you were growing that babe inside you. Let's see what she's having for dinner.
Usually I'm having dinner around 6 p.m. My friends call it the early bird special or Granny's delight. But also I just feel better when I eat early, and then that way later if I'm gonna have like a little snack, I can have something light, but I don't feel like I'm heavy when I go to bed.
Love me a Granny delight. Come on, if you're not even eligible for the early bird special at IHOP, are you even momming? But no, even though talking about feeling heavy when you go to bed sounds kind of like a diet culture statement, I do get what she's trying to say here. I think a lot of people find that they have a hard time digesting a big meal and then just like laying down for bed. I know that I have found that having like a geriatric hour meal and then going for like a slow walk on the treadmill or outside after dinner definitely helps with my digestion and quality of sleep. And Ashley and I are not alone.
But we had lamb stew every night and it is unbelievable. Lamb, purple potatoes, whole garlic, and then he puts it in the oven. It's super delicious, super filling, and especially after you have a baby, they say to eat lots of like really hot nutritional food.
Oh man, I am here for the hearty postpartum stews. I made a huge batch of like a dozen different soups and stews before baby O came so that I had lots of warm, hydrating meals ready to go. And I'm just now coming to the end of my stash, sadly.
Please, sir, I want some more.
But I love that the stew has the protein from the lamb, carbs from the potatoes, and I assume there's like some tomatoes or some other kind of veg in there. But a stew is also an awesome place to sneak in a lot of random leftover pieces of vegetables that you have in the fridge. So if it was my pot of deliciousness, I would probably throw in some diced zucchini, some bell peppers, and maybe like some frozen spinach.
He'll make this thing called General Chicken because it's literally just General Chicken on the stovetop with garlic, salt, and pepper.
Okay, I don't know who needs to hear this, probably not my vegan followers, but I just want to say that I think the best chicken recipes are the simplest chicken recipes. My hubby tells everyone that I make the best chicken breast, and it's true, I do. But really, you just want to season it really well and not overcook it. As far as I'm concerned, those are the only secrets you need to know.
On Thursday nights, Justin and I do date night because to have a happy marriage, you do date nights. I will treat myself to 2 tequilas, 2 margaritas. Oh, I love a margarita.
I knew I liked this girl. I haven't had a good margarita in almost 2 years because I've either been pregnant, cooped up inside during a pandemic, or both. But it's definitely up there in my top 20 cocktails.
Wait a minute.
What? I like a lot of drinks. Now, as for the elephant in the room, can you drink and breastfeed? Well, this is a complicated and slightly controversial topic, but in short, you do not need to pump and dump after hitting the bottle. Pumping and dumping doesn't speed up the elimination of alcohol from the milk, and the amount that finds its way into breast milk is also relatively low. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics section on breastfeeding, alcoholic beverages should be limited to no more than 0.5 grams of alcohol per kilogram of body weight, which for a 60 kilogram mother is approximately 2 ounces of liquor, 8 ounces of wine, or 2 beers. It's also important to note that alcohol levels in breast milk peak around 30 to 60 minutes after consumption, and as your blood alcohol level returns to normal, so too does your milk. So most authorities suggest that if you're sober enough to drive, you're sober enough to breastfeed. According to the godfather of breastfeeding, Dr. Newman, the biggest risk of drinking and breastfeeding is that you might get so drunk you fall asleep with the baby or you drop the baby. That said, this is not, I repeat, not an endorsement to drink while breastfeeding. I'm just stating the little research and recommendations that we do have around this. You have to do what you feel comfortable with, and if that is complete abstinence, then that's great for you too. But I, like Ashley, enjoy a well-timed drinky drink after the babies go to bed. Let's see what else she's eating.
We go to Almar usually, which is my favorite local restaurant in Dumbo. And I always get the branzino filleted with a side of broccoli, and I start with the endive salad. I'm not gonna lie, I do order it out like probably 3 times a week. It's amazing.
That does sound like a killer meal. Again, there's no harm in adding like a carb side dish, but if you prefer your carbs in liquefied grape form or dessert, then I guess that works in my books as well. So for a restaurant meal, this sounds both delicious and really nutrient dense. So big thumbs up from me.
My favorite food city has to be Calabria, Italy. So my absolutely favorite thing to eat is the cannolis. Now, I invented my own way of eating the cannoli for breakfast, and I was putting it on watermelon. Call me crazy, but it was like a miracle of explosions in my mouth.
I just want to know what all my Italian friends think about this combo. I mean, I get pretty excited about unique food combinations. Like, I'm not a purist by any means. And I am trying to envision it. I am trying to imagine it. And I'm not gonna yuck someone's yum here because my goodness, she is selling it. I would eat anything if it was described first by Ashley Graham. But my culinary intuition tells me that the watermelon would just like sog up the crisp cookie shell. It would be like dunking a biscotti in fruity herbal tea instead of coffee. That would just be such an injustice. Also, I do hope that she's able to tolerate some gluten in her diet because I feel like all the best pastries and pasta in Italy are probably not gluten-free.
I have some me time. So that's usually when I'll either pull out my frozen dark chocolate out of my freezer because I think that dark chocolate frozen is the best. And one of my favorite things to eat is sliced apples drizzled with peanut butter on top.
Okay, so the way I read these interviews often comes down to language, intention, and attitude. And these late night snacks could come across as super restrictive, as it did when like Kelly Ripa talked about her treats being like a single chocolate almond. But it really comes down to the context of one's day and also how they view that snack. Ashley talks about these foods with absolute enthusiasm and gusto. Like, she really makes it a sensory experience just to hear her describe them. And while dark chocolate may be the stereotypical healthy treat in wellness culture, Ashley doesn't seem to discriminate against classic like 7-Eleven special peanut M&Ms. So it's clear to me that the girl just probably eats what she likes and isn't judging herself for it. So these sound like awesome bedtime snacks to me. All in, I'm loving that I'm seeing a lot of variety in Ashley's diet, with the exception of some potential restrictions around gluten and dairy, which she may have her own health reasons for. I don't think that her diet is particularly restrictive in any way. I mean, she puts buttery spread on her bread and eats potatoes in her stew and knows her way around a bag of cheap candy. And on that note, that is all that I have for you guys today. A big thank you again to Built Bar for sponsoring this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it the thumbs up. Leave me a comment below with any other YouTubers or celebrities whose diet you want me to review. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye.